Thanks very much for having me here today. This has always been and remains one of the most beautiful schools I've ever set foot in, and I have a job that involves setting foot in many beautiful schools around the country and around the world. So I'm honoured to be here. I'm very glad to be talking to you all today about two wonderful, transformative things. Two things that take a life led in black and white and splash it with glorious technicolor. And one of those things, as Wen-Yu already mentioned, is debating. And the other one is Harry Potter. And I think these two things share one beautiful similarity. And I think that walking into debating for the first time is just like that moment in Harry Potter where he finds out that he's a wizard for the first time, right? So that joy and that excitement, but also that slight horror and that slight fear is something which I think is magical and something that I think lies at the heart, not only of debating, which I love more than is really rational, but at the heart of any hobby or any commitment that you guys make and take up with that level of dedication. So let's dive in. So debating really consumed my life at university. It continues to consume my life now. It's taken me all around the world, and it's something that I have a deep and lasting passion for. But with Harry Potter, what we find similarly is something that has entranced and enthralled people all around the world, that has done for many years, and that continues to do so. So why is it that these two things are similar, right? Why am I going on about these things that you think, or may think, are completely different? Two things. So firstly, when Harry Potter finds out for that first time that Hagrid knocks on the door, comes in and goes, "Harry, you're a wizard," Harry finds something incredible. He finds that everything that he's ever been told was a lie, that the world that he thought was real was not the world that is actually real, and that there's something incredible out there. This magic that he's always dreamed about, that he's always wanted, actually exists. And it's not something, he's been told, "Harry, it's not real. Harry, stop talking about it. Harry, stop going on about magic. Just drop it." And he finds out that actually his uncle and aunt have been lying to him the whole time, and there's a beautiful magic world out there. And what that means is that some things are never the same again. When he goes to King's Cross, that can never be one of, 3, 4 anonymous London train stations, but it's now the home of the Hogwarts Express, the start of the journey, the place that he dreams about as being the crux of the distinction between the land of the living and the land of the dead. And it means that an anonymous shop front that his eyes might have just slid past and a phone box that he might have paid no notice to now become St. Mungo's and the entrance to the Ministry of Magic. And it means that the leaky cauldron is now something that he can see rather than something that he couldn't. And it means that in one of the many, many London squares, all of which look very similar, there's now a building where once there was a quirk of lettering that meant that there was no number 13. And all of those joys and all of those mysteries, that world of magic and wonder that is now available to him, it's just the same as debating, right? So when you start debating for the first time, you realize that all these things that you were told, they were a lie, right? It's a lie that no one wants, that some people have nothing to say. And it's a lie that some people just can't do standing up in front of other people. And it's a lie that no one wants to know what you think. And it's a lie that debating is this thing where politicians shout at each other to no real end on the telly in a sort of maybe vaguely amusing, but probably not very important way. All those things are lies. And the truth is that if we train ourselves to really see it, and if we train ourselves to really look through something like debating or really any intellectual engagement that you have in your life, that there's a world of magic out there, that under all of the black and white, under the grimy London streets, and indeed under this beautiful London building, there's a world, a sort of hidden architecture of ideas and of true intellectual joy. Because every seemingly pointless argument that politicians have on the TV, or seemingly pointless argument that you have with your mum, or that people have in the pub or in a restaurant or whatever, under every one of those arguments, there's a whole set of ideas which are just swarming underneath, waiting for you to recognize that they were there all along, waiting for you to train yourself to look for them, and waiting for you to train yourself to realize that once you have an idea, it's not just some fact, and it's not something that you're just going to wheel out on an exam or whatever, but it's something that's going to remain with you forever and that you can use for a whole range of purposes in the rest of your life. So that's one thing, this world of wonder. The second key similarity, I think, comes with that, and it's the necessary dark side of there being all this great stuff out there. And it's the fear and it's the doubt that Harry expresses. And if you'll just let me read to you just for a moment. So Harry finds out he's a wizard. Hagrid's like, yeah, you're a wizard, have some sausages, have some cake. Harry's just like, yay. And then after a while, Harry says, instead of feeling pleased and proud, he felt quite sure that there had been a horrible mistake. A wizard? Him? How could he possibly be? He'd spent his life being clouted by Dudley and bullied by Aunt Petunia and Uncle Vernon, and if he really was a wizard, why hadn't they been turned into warty toads every time they tried to lock him in his cupboard? If he'd once defeated the greatest sorcerer in the world, how come Dudley had always been able to kick him around like a football? And so Hagrid, he says quietly, I think you must have made a mistake. I don't think that I can be a wizard. And this is a doubt that stays with Harry, and it comes back on the train when he says to Ron, you know, I bet everyone else in the class is better than me. And it comes back again when he's in the whole hall full of all of the students waiting to put the sorting hat on. And he thinks, what if there's been a mistake and I just sit there and I don't get sorted? And Professor McGonagall says, Harry, there's been a mistake. You need to get back on the train. And that's a doubt and fear that remains with him because he's seen something so incredible and he can't quite believe that he fits in. And he can't quite believe that ordinary Harry Potter could enter this world and be a part of it. And I do a job that is glorious and lets me see people start debating for the first time again and again. And one thing that I see almost every day is people feeling that same doubt and fear and going, oh, debating, you know, that's not for me. That's something that, I don't know, clever kids do, or that's something that posh kids do, or that's something people like me don't do. Or they think, no, I couldn't stand up in front of all those people. I'd be too scared. And even if I did manage to overcome my fear and get on a stage, well, why would anyone listen to me? And that's a doubt that everyone feels all the time. And it's also not really a doubt that goes away. So I once saw a world champion debater, someone who from afar you would think was the most cocksure, arrogant guy in the roost, right? You thought, this guy, he's got an answer to everything, brilliant speaker. And I once saw him stand up in front of a room of 7 people to give a very short 10-minute introduction to a program of debating that was happening that day. And yeah, he sounded confident, he sounded okay, but I was standing just behind him about where that would be if I was this person. And I could see his hand held behind his back with all his notes, shaking like a leaf with the fear that he felt standing in front of 7 people giving an ordinary introduction. And that's a fear and doubt that stays with us. And I think it comes with the wonder, just like it did for Harry. So there are great stories that people tell, and they do it all the time, about the wonders they've seen in debating, people overcoming the doubt, overcoming the fear, and becoming something they never thought they could be. But I'm not going to tell you any of these great stories. You can Google them, they're on YouTube. What I'm going to tell you about is a couple of very small stories. And these are just moments that literally make my day every time they happen. And it's things like the first time someone says, actually, you know what? Maybe I'll just give that a go, right? Maybe I'll just try this debating thing. And they stand up and they say some things, and their peers are actually thinking, their classmates are thinking, you know, that was pretty smart. That was some pretty good stuff, and I'm glad that person stood up and said it. And the smile that people who do that for the first time have on their face when they sit down, of a sort of quiet confidence, is one of the best things, one of the best smiles that you could ever see, one of the best things that could ever happen. And people who say, oh, you know, and they give an amazing speech, and then afterwards they go, I didn't think I had anything to say, but then I stood up and all these ideas just came out. It's another great moment that you see when you engage in something like debating. So the question then you might be wondering, right, is she said all this stuff about Harry Potter. She said, yeah, we should think about ideas and we should sort of try stuff. What makes debating special? Why is it that I have to try this particular hobby out of all the wonderful, exciting things that are available to us? I think there are 3 things that make debating special, 3 things that make it incredible, because I think it's true. You can see ideas all over the place. You could read a book, you could learn some things, you could pay attention to your teacher, whatever, find some true intellectual joy. And, you know, equally, you can try loads of things, overcome adversity, climb a mountain or whatever, right? But 3 things that make debating special. And these, I think, really are quite amazing. And the first one is community. So there are people all over the world who engage in this wonderful activity and think that it's something that defines who they are, think that it's something that they wish everyone had a chance to do. Because when we stand here in a room like this and we say, I really value debate, I really value conversation, and I think that we can, through reasoned discussion, come to good ideas. That sounds pretty uncontroversial. It sounds like something that everyone would say. It seems almost a truism. But if you go to parts of the world where that's not a given, and where people stand up and debate with their peers, and that is some of the only debate that happens in their country, and it's some of the only discussion that is valued that they've ever seen, that's an amazing experience. And to stand in front of those people or with those people and say, today we brought debate to a part of the world where normally people don't value that sort of thing, that can be incredible. And what that does is it binds this community together. So there are people all over the world who feel that they've been transformed by debating and have a burning desire to transform in their turn. And that means people give up lots of time to take part in all sorts of debating-related events. It means people organise competitions and workshops and model the United Nations and model parliaments and all of these sorts of things that mean that they are there to make sure that everyone has those chances and that everyone can be a part of a speech and debate community. And that's one thing that makes debating a very special hobby. It means that when you think, oh, I'm not sure if I can do this, I'm not sure if I can manage, there should always be someone who says, yeah, you can do it, just go for it. And someone who's always there to offer that support and offer that advice. The second thing I think that makes debating incredible is commitment, right? So it's something which, if you want it to, and you don't have to want it to, but if you want it to, can take over a lot of your spare time. I think I spent more time on debating during my time at university than I did doing the things which were supposedly gaining me my degree. And I don't regret that for a moment, because I think that if you find something that makes you passionate and something that you really enjoy and something that you think you're learning from and something where you think maybe that you're teaching others, where you've got something to say, and that's an incredible thing. And that doesn't have to be debating, it could be any other hobby that you have. But to be able to say, yeah, I do this thing, I do it well, I'm committed to it, and I'm passionate about it, is a wonderful process which brings out all sorts of other qualities that before lay hidden and that before we couldn't see. And the final one is growth. So I think debating, unlike almost any other hobby that you could do, has a limitless capacity to change who we are and to change who we become. Because every time you grasp a new idea and every time you think in a new way, that's just like Harry, right? Learning a new set of spells. Because it doesn't mean that all the old spells went away or that all the things that he enjoys about the Muggle world no longer matter anymore. But it means that he's got this extra set of eyes, almost, with which to see the world. An extra set of things that he can see and that he can use and that he can talk about and that he can love that nobody else can see and nobody else can feel. And I think that's a beautiful thing. So all that I want to say today, then, is that what debating does is an incredible thing that can transform lives. But if you don't find debating, that you should find any other thing that you love and that you want to do to be the best at, or that you want to allow into your life and you want to allow to transform your life, and that you should take hold of that opportunity, because there aren't very many of them, unfortunately. And when we do find something that has the capacity to transform our lives and the lives of those around us, I think we should always take that chance. So all I can say to you guys is, please debate. Please love ideas and realise that they're all there for the making. They're all there to be created by you as you find and interact with them. And please join the community of debaters. Because as J.K. Rowling says, when Hermione, Harry and Ron fight the mountain troll, there are a great number of things that you can't go through without forming firm friendships. And one of those things was fighting a 12-foot mountain troll. But the other thing is sharing a passion and sharing a hobby. So please take it up.